Every day a new game comes out, and in that game, you can buy currency, experience points, and crafting materials for real money. Also, every day I see the words pay to win and think of just how far this term has been dragged through the mud. A lot of my viewers are somehow younger than me. Being a YouTuber is like a babysitting job, except you get paid even worse. These guys were not around when the real pay to win shit was happening. This used to mean you got a really stupid weapon in multiplayer, you bought a crafting material that is almost impossible to get in the game, or you paid money to skip a really difficult dungeon or boss fight. When I see pay to win nowadays, it's a double XP timer and a battle pass. That's what this video is about. I'm here to remind everybody what real pay to win shit looked like. For 1 cup of coffee, here's something you can get that makes it literally impossible to lose. Something that skips so much of the game, you might as well not even play. I'm talking something that is so absurdly powerful, it changed the entire game overnight. This is the Pyromane in Ark Survival Ascended. Don't worry, if you don't play Ark, stick around because I promise you this video will be interesting. Ark survival games are some of the most difficult but most rewarding games out there. In this game, a turkey can kill you if you're not careful, man. There's like 10,000 different ways you can die. One of them is eating shit. Surprisingly, there's no Spider-Man or Elsa in sight. Amazing way to start a video, I know. The only way to survive is you Bill Cosby some dinosaurs. I'm talking about the sleeping part, not what happens afterwards. Unless, if you don't have an army of prehistoric creatures, you're not going to get anywhere in this game. There are hundreds of creatures to tame, and the fun part is finding out what that thing do. They all serve a purpose, and spoiler alert, you're going to need most of them. Creatures to gather food, help you build your base, defend it from enemy players, fight God. Creatures are only one part of what makes Ark so great, but it's the most important part. There's also agriculture mechanics, cooking, plumbing. There's like gunsmithing and shit in this game. It can become your second job if you're not careful. Twisted, this can become your second job if you're not careful. The only reason I'm mentioning all of this is to show you just how huge this game is, because the Pyromane does almost all of that for you. Power creep is an occasional thing in this game. Sometimes a creature will get buffed and accidentally replace another one. The meta for this game is always changing as new creatures and mechanics are introduced and then broken pretty frequently. So it's inevitable that something gets left in the dust. But the Pyromane is so different. This thing replaced almost every creature. To win at Ark, you used to build a giant base capable of housing tons of dinosaurs. With the Pyromane, you have everything you need to beat the game. So what does this guy do? Well, for starters, it is extremely strong in combat. It has really good stats like health and damage, and it has armor that gradually gets stronger as it levels up. It takes forever to kill one, but it doesn't take long to kill you. If you manage to put a dent in it, it lights you on fire doing tick damage. Then it can absorb that fire to buff itself and recover its health. All this shit. Well, you can hear the writer in voice chat coughing from his fucking vape. The game might as well play itself at this point. If you can somehow get past that, they are also insanely agile. The Pyromane is capable of doing this ginormous jump called the Flame Leap. So if you're in any trouble, you can turn tail and jump away, and you're too fast for anyone to catch up to you. This makes fighting someone on a Pyromane so unrewarding. You spend all these resources just to survive, and then all of a sudden they peace out like that one guy. So maybe you take them by surprise? Well, the Pyromane can become smaller and sit on your shoulder, and while it's in this mode, it acts like a turret that automatically shoots fire at everything that gets close. I feel like I'm Otacon relaying all this shit to Snake. Snake, it's not Hunter x Hunter. Basically, you can't melee kill anyone who's on this thing because it'll set you on fire, and you can't kill anyone from a distance because it'll grow big and it'll set you on fire. By far the biggest insult to injury, this is a reskin of an existing creature. They didn't even make a new one. They took a creature, gave it a different model, and then just buffed the shit out of it. For $5, you're not even getting anything new. It does have one weakness, which is water. Once the Pyromane makes contact with any water, it loses all of its fire-based abilities. However, it still has all of its health, armor, and melee damage. Even in this weakened state, it can still win a fight. The worst part is once you have a Pyromane, it literally doesn't matter. You can take on all of the AI dinos that exist in this game, not including mini bosses like the Giganotosaurus. Come here, bro. The Pyromane can tank any AI controlled opponent thrown at it just by left clicking. You don't even have to try, you just win. In Ark, you have to venture into these caves filled with enemies to retrieve what are called artifacts. These artifacts are used to summon boss fights and unlock endgame items. For these caves, you have to tame a variety of creatures, spend time leveling them up, play a game of catch with them, drop them off at school, and then when they get older, you have to sit down and you got to have the talk with them. And then send them right at it. Do it just like Daddy showed you, dude. To showcase just how crazy the Pyromane is, I'm gonna tame a level 51 I just found on the beach and then try to go through all 12 of the caves in the game with it. At level 50, it should have decent enough stats to survive, but it's also low enough level that an early game player can tame it right off the bat. Here's a supercut of me going through all the caves. Look at that fucking jump, dude. Oh shit. Okay. Good thing this guy is immune to lava, but I'm not. That is so fucking nuts. That should be illegal. Why didn't I take any damage? As soon as I got submerged in that lava, I should have died. Oh yeah, I remember this cave now. Okay, so this cave gets a little tricky because normally you need the grappling hook, but believe it or not, with the Pyromane, you no longer need that. I'm gonna show you how. Okay, now where was this gap again? I think it was over this direction, wasn't it? Oh yeah, there we go. Check that shit out, dude. Yeah, there's usually a red drop in this room, which is so weird. Like farming drops on this guy is a huge thing. Like once you have a Pyromane, you can just bully the caves. Cause like who's gonna go in there and fight you, right? You can just bully these caves and then just like grab whatever loot you want. It's fucking crazy. Okay, let's suck in all that fire. Make me stronger, bitch. Editor's note, the Pyromane also bypasses all the temperature mechanics in the game. So yeah, I don't need to wear fur or anything in this snow cave. I could just casually ride in there, you know, as if nothing's wrong. So I survived 8 out of 12 caves with the random Pyromane I found walking on the beach. The hard ice cave was the first cave that gave me any trouble. A lot of trouble. My Pyromane actually died, and it's because of brute force. There's a shitload of enemies in here, all spawning above the max level of 150, hence why they call it the hard ice cave. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that Pyromane and use it to level up 2 higher level ones. Now, not only do we have 2, but we also have a mate pair. When you have a female and a male creature next to each other, they get a mate boost that drastically boosts their defense and damage output. As you can see here, with absolutely no breeding or grinding before we've even built a base, we have successfully completed 10 out of the 12 caves. Wow, like we spawned a few hours ago and already we're in like end game content. There are 2 caves completely submerged underwater, so I didn't count them. You need to tame some underwater creatures or just build a ghetto submarine. I mean, you're telling me these guys built that to find the Titanic? Why weren't they finding artifacts, bro? You can always transfer to other maps where these artifacts aren't submerged, so we're still good. Even in these underwater caves, the Pyromane is still overpowered because it clears up all the enemy spam while you look for loot crates. That's just another thing that makes the Pyromane so ridiculous. Now you have access to endgame gear, and you didn't even have to craft it. You can find loot crates inside of these caves or scattered around the map in airdrops. You can get thousands of armor points with just a few pieces, which is why Pyromane riders are so difficult to kill. Yeah, I read the comment you left before even finishing this video. No, you can't kill the rider, dude. I bet you feel pretty fucking stupid, huh? Fuck you. They call first dibs on all the good loot because it gets around so fast. So that's established. Let's talk bosses. Let's take that mate pair and start breeding them. Now we have 20 high level Pyromanes, and I'm going to blindly send these guys at all 4 of the bosses. Let's see what happens. Let's jump right into it. Don't you fucking hate when people say that shit? Oh yeah, shit. That definitely didn't work. Yeah, so I thought these guys were gonna steamroll all the bosses, and they didn't. They like died right away. Turns out Wildcard prevented them from using their fire abilities in boss arenas. It makes sense. You wouldn't want these guys to heal during a boss fight. One big problem with that, there's the Daedon, which heals your creatures. Yeah, I don't know how much this nerf actually accomplished. This is on official settings, by the way. This is the official difficulty of the game. Like, you can hop on and do this on official servers. Now to really steamroll the game, we're gonna remove one Pyromane and bring a U-Tyrannus. It has a roar that stacks an even higher damage and defense boost on top of the mate boost. And now we beat the dragon and the overseer and beat the whole ass fucking game. When you have a Pyromane, genuinely the only thing you have to ever worry about is a better player who also happens to have a Pyromane. Now we've ascended, we've seen the final cutscene, and have been granted 15 extra max levels for our character. That's not even everything this guy can do. So obviously, the Pyromane replaces everything in regards to combat. It's giving takeover. This guy is so strong you don't even need a base anymore. At some point in this game, you'll need to make food to avoid dying of starvation. Now, normally you would create a campfire or a grill, but the Pyromane cooks meat in its inventory. Whenever you're hungry, just look inside, motherfucker. If you do establish a base, the Pyromane poops pretty frequently. Remember what I said earlier, dude. Trust me, it's not worth it. I saw you try to do it. What the fuck? There's like 10,000 different ways you can die. You're supposed to use it to fertilize and grow crops. If you leave your boss army out, you'll have just enough fertilizer to keep you going forever. What about gathering? Well, since the Pyromane is technically a shoulder pet, it has a 30% carry weight reduction, which means you can carry much more. And in those loot crates, you can find hatchets and pickaxes that easily collect more than a dinosaur can. Base defense, I mean, it's self-explanatory. You set some of these guys up and some turrets up, nobody's ever getting in. You can do 90% of the content in this game with this one creature. It is way too much. And friendly reminder, it's $5, so a lot of people have these. I wasn't kidding when I say this changed the game overnight. This actually ruined the game for a lot of people. Even on paper, the Pyromane sounds ridiculous, let alone put into practice by people who've been playing the game for 10 years. Surely they knew this was going to break the game, right? Well, they did, but if you know about what was going on behind the scenes, you'll see that they didn't have a choice. Studio Wildcard was working on Arc 2, and Survival Ascended was supposed to be a free remake that was going to get bundled in with it. But the devs and their publisher Snail Games needed more money and time to finish things up. A lot more. It's been delayed for half a decade now. By the way, it's a Souls-like, apparently. Like, I feel like this game changes genre every month. They decided to focus more on ASA, but in order to get the funds to finish it, they entered a predatory contract with the server hosting company Nitrado. This meant every ASA server would be hosted on Nitrado's hardware, which meant every time Nitrado was DDoSed, you couldn't play the game. Whoops. The other terms of the contract was that Studio Wildcard, of course, had to pay Nitrado back with interest, and they had to do it in 2025. This was a lot of money that they owed, and to make matters worse, ASA was supposed to come out in February, but got delayed all the way until October. This meant that almost a full year of their 2-year contract was already up, and they hadn't made a single dollar on the game until then. I also neglected to mention that their publisher, instead of reinvesting the money into the game that is making them all of their money, they bought cryptocurrency and electric cars and all these other crazy investments that weren't paying off. So yeah, any money Studio Wildcard generated was not helping the cause whatsoever. Studio Wildcard had a little over a year to repay this massive loan, which meant they had to create a bunch of content that everyone needed to buy, but wasn't going to scare away their current player base. Wildcard needed to create something insane like the Pyromane to understand what people were willing to pay for, and it came dangerously close to dismantling the entire gameplay of Arc. You can tell Wildcard regrets ever releasing the Pyromane because they immediately nerfed it, but that's a whole can of worms in and of itself. If they nerf it too much, nobody's going to buy it. But if they don't do anything about it, then all their players are going to leave the game. So they've been doing micro nerfs over the span of 2024, and as soon as they finally made enough money to pay Nitrado back, take notice of how this was when the Pyromane started getting hit hard. They added water grenades so that you can put out a pyromane no matter where you are. They started spawning them in wyvern trenches, so in order to tame one, you had to fight this giant army of some of the most powerful creatures in the game. Wildcard made a lot of really creative and smart decisions to make them harder to get early game. Another change is now they can be trapped in Ebola. It comes with the drawback of making them easier to tame, but now when you run into a wild or a player-ridden one, you can stun them in place, incentivizing the rider to hop off and keep fighting. In spite of all these drastic changes, the pyromane is still way too overpowered. The only way they can undo the power creep is if they actually lower its damage per second, but that's the problem. If they do that, what's supposed to make me want to buy one? People tame pyromanes because it makes a really, really hard game really easy. It has a lot of uses outside of combat, but let's be honest. You're taming a flaming lion because you plan to use it in combat. The other stuff are just bonuses. And that's why the pyromane is the most egregious case of pay to win I have ever seen. The worst part? It worked. Everyone bought it. Getting this huge a leg up on everyone else for only $5. As someone who cares a lot about this game and likes playing it, I bought it. I don't feel great about it. I never use it in online. I never use it in PvP. I always do it in single player. I couldn't sleep at night if I made someone fight a pyromane, okay? This guy ruined my Arc sesh. Raiden genuinely hurts people. But if I want to play some casual Arc and I don't want to do all the grinding and I'm okay with playing single player, I tame a pyromane. This DLC was a lesson for Wildcard because the next handful of paywalled creatures were never this strong. They were drastically toned down by comparison. Certain ones like the Dreadmare nobody ever tames. The Drakeling is pretty fucking ridiculous, but at least it doesn't break the game. And the Elder Claw is genuinely the coolest one yet. It's really useful, has its own place in the meta without power creeping everything else in the game. It's a support dino, and there's not a lot of options for that. Eventually, Wildcard went from insane to bad to genuinely cool. And after the positive reception that the Elder Claw got, I think they're going to create a lot more creatures that add more to the game instead of shortcutting through it. I know I was incredibly critical of the pyromane for good reason, but I still hate to make such a negative video. I'm much more of a positive, hey, look at how awesome this thing is guy. It's just that Ark is one of the best designed games, hands down, and the pyromane trivializes some of that amazing design. There's a reason I've been playing this game for 10 years. I wouldn't commit so much of my life to a game if it wasn't fun. So if I've motivated you to play Ark, I really hope you give it a try. Just don't play PvP unless you want to run into this guy. Now time for an ad.
Now in the Cult of Noodles for just $1, you can help scientists create the pyromane in real life. Then we can send them to China. Here's a list of people who hate those fucking Reds.
Hey, Snickerdoodle. Please subscribe.